meeting. Call this meeting to order, the March 26, 2025 meeting of the King County Growth Management Planning Council. I want to thank everyone for their flexibility in shifting today's meeting to online only given the inclement weather conditions. The agenda today includes 2 potential action items. These include action on our year-long growth targets reconciliation process and action on the 2025 GMPC work program. First, we have a few new GMPC members in 2025, and I want to welcome Councilmember Kate Baldwin from City of Auburn, Councilmember Amy McHenry from the City of Duval, and Deputy Mayor Jim Rebell from the City of Carnation. Thank you all for your membership and your service. We also want to acknowledge the contributions of GMPC members that are not continuing in 2025, including Councilmember Sid Dawson from the City of Maple Valley, Councilmember Larry Brown from the City of Auburn, and Councilmember Susan Torgerson from the City of North Bend. Thank you very much for your service. Really appreciate your dedication and the time that you've contributed to GMPC. Additionally, I want to share that the countywide planning policy amendment ratification period has ended this week for 3 items that GMPC worked on over the past 2 years. GMPC Motion 23-2, amending the 4-to-1 program and urban growth area amendment policies. GMPC Motion 24-1, amending the urban growth area near the City of Maple Valley. And GMPC Motion 24-1, amending the countywide center planning expectations. Let's start with meeting logistics and the roll call. Ivan, would you like to do the roll call?
Sure. Thank you. So just some quick Zoom meeting reminders that we do each meeting. For everyone's awareness, we are recording today's session for committee members. If you want to speak, you can use the raise the hand function. And remember, when you're done speaking, if you would, please turn your microphone off. If you are comfortable, please keep your video on to aid in deliberation and facilitation. Keep your microphone muted, as I said, when not speaking. If you are making or seconding a motion, and we'll need 2 of those today, please state your name just to help us with the record keeping. And for everyone else attending online, your video and audio are turned off. And if you want to speak during public comment on the computer, you can use the raise hand function, or on the phone, dial *9. You'll be called. You'll be able to unmute yourself, and Rebecca will walk you through public comment period. Public comment must relate to an action or discussion item on the agenda. Each member of the public will have 2 minutes to speak, and because there have been some intentional attempts to disrupt county meetings with inappropriate language and imagery, we'll monitor and end the comment if this occurs. That's all for meeting logistics, and now I'll do the roll call and determine if we have a quorum. Okay. Executive Constantine is not here. Councilmember Balducci.
Here.
Councilmember Dembowski.
Here.
Councilmember Mosqueda. Councilmember Perry.
Here.
Mayor Harrell. Councilmember Solomon.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Strauss. Councilmember Neuenhouse.
Here.
Mayor Curtis.
Here.
Councilmember McIrvin. Councilmember Kaur.
Here.
Mayor Neese. Councilmember Treen.
Present.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Councilmember Asefa Dawson. Councilmember Baldwin.
Here.
Councilmember McHenry.
Here.
And Deputy Mayor Rebell.
Here.
Great. For non-voting members, Assistant Superintendent Stokes.
Here.
And Commissioner Otal. Chair Perry, we have 12 members present. And we have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Due to the inclement weather conditions, I'd like to suggest that we take today's agenda out of order and start with our action items and postponed informational briefings to our June meeting. If there are no objections, we will proceed with that plan. Any objections? No objections? No objections. Okay. I would like to ask for approval of meeting summary from December 11th, 2024 with a motion and a second stating your name.
Madam Chair, we usually do this just with a voice vote.
Oh,
on
great.
this item.
Okay. What Ivan said, voice vote. Does everyone approve the meeting summary from December 11th, 2024? Say aye. Nay, if not. Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. Has anyone signed up for comment today, Ivan?
Let me turn this
Or
over
Rebecca.
to Rebecca. Yeah, I believe we do
Rebecca
have folks signed up.
Maskin.
Yes.
Rebecca Maskin will call on each speaker in the order in which they signed up to speak, and each commenter will have 2 minutes. Please direct your marks to items on today's agenda. And Rebecca, go right ahead.
Thank you, Chair. We've had a number of folks who signed up in advance to speak today, so I'm going to call on the folks who signed up in writing ahead of time first, and we have 5 folks there. And then I will call on any of the Zoom hands who didn't sign up ahead of time. So let me get our clock up and we'll get started. Our first commenter today is going to be Terry Danish. And our second person on deck will be Rhonda Ender from City of Carnation. So Terry, let me give you permission to speak. I lost my participants window. Where did you go? Okay. So Terry, you have permission to speak and you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Terry Danish, and my firm and I represent Nancy Harville, the 86-year-old owner of a 60-acre farm on the edge of Carnation within the city's UGA. Our emails are a matter of record and are in your packets and our materials that we submitted on the 12th of March as well as the 19th of March. I won't bore you with the details there, but I hope that you get a chance to look at them at some point. I'm here to speak to Carnation's reconciliation request and not to debate the merits of our client's proposal. Both the city and the Joint Rural Team's responses to our letters focused on the very specific aspects of our proposals that are the kinds of issues, having been a land use lawyer now for 40 years, that get resolved in the entitlements process. That's not what we're here to talk about. Obviously, what we're here to talk about is the city's reconciliation request with regard to housing, and that is the key topic here. The issue of disappearing farmland, while of concern to King County as a whole, is a bit of a straw man in this case, where 1, it's only a 60-acre parcel. 2, it's surrounded by other non-rural, non-farm development. 3, it's within the city's UGA. And last but not least, 4, the city has planned for a growth target of approximately 800 residential units now for over a decade. The real issue for the GMPC and the county council, as well as the state, is how to provide more housing consistent with the state's mandate for middle housing. We're only asking that Carnation's request be reconciled in that regard in light of a demonstrable need for housing where demand in King County is extraordinarily high and supply is extraordinarily low. We believe our client's proposal provides a uniquely suitable solution.
Thank you.
Pardon me. Our next speaker is going to be Rhonda Ender, Carnation City Manager. Let me see you. So Rhonda, you should have the ability to talk now and you can begin when you're ready.
On behalf of the City of Carnation, thank you for considering our reconciliation request. As you know, King County recommended a housing target for the city of Carnation between 176 to 341 with the baseline of 273. Prior City of Carnation staff, not understanding the process and without City Council knowledge, put forth a housing target of 799 housing units. This would double the number of homes in Carnation, creating unsustainable pressure on a community that is 1 square mile in size. Our reconciliation request is a housing target of 350, creating consistency with King County's recommendations. Although we are not here today to discuss a potential annexation request, we will be making a few comments on the Peterson-Russell-Kelly Live in Good letter. An annexation request is completely separate from our reconciliation request. A future application for annexation will require extensive feasibility studies on the sufficiency of public safety, transportation, utilities, and floodplain management, especially for a city that is 1 square mile in size with considerable land in the floodplain. Granting our reconciliation request does not preclude future consideration of annexation. Regarding the comments on utilities being built for massive growth, PSC's Tolt substation serves not only Carnation but a significant portion of the rural area around Carnation. The sewer system was installed due to failing septic systems throughout the city that were in danger of being condemned. We humbly request you grant Carnation's reconciliation request. As PSRC pointed out, the cities and towns' growth allocation is already about 3,900 housing units higher than called for in the growth regional strategy. There will be no net loss given the surplus. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Rhonda. Our next speaker will be Councilmember Jessica Marizan from the City of Carnation. Let me promote you to speak. Right, Jessica, you should be able to talk.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jessica Marizan, a council member representing the City of Carnation, and I would like to speak in support of our request to reduce our housing target to 350. This is actually an increase from King County's previous request for a baseline of 273. We understand and support the need to mitigate the housing crisis and believe strongly in proposing more affordable housing in the city. The reason we are asking for 350 is it is critical to reconcile because if we're asked to go above this number, development will be forced into the floodplain. We've submitted for your records statements of support from the Joint Rural Committee and the Snoqualmie Tribe. I am not here to speak on behalf of either, but I do want to call out they're strongly discourage building on a floodplain. Published research by the tribe indicates extreme cause for concern for a low-lying jurisdiction like Carnation. These days, floods are now behaving very differently than they were in the past due to more intense rainfall, often carried by frequent atmospheric rivers. We're going to see more and more floods of record in this high hazard flood zone. The parcels that can be developed in our UGA are all on, at minimum, 1/3 of the floodplain for 100-year floods. This is something where not only is that a danger to life, but development is also a danger to the local ecosystem and wildlife. And we're already seeing the cost of having to engineer solutions to retroactively resolve the kind of damage that housing and developing on unstable or poor land is happening. So from our perspective and the statements of the support from the Joint Rural Team and the Snoqualmie Tribe, we urge the reconciliation request for 350 so we can focus on having safe and affordable housing for the constituents and residents of Carnation. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who signed up to speak is Deputy Mayor Jim Rebel from Carnation.
Thank you. I want to address the Peterson-Russell-Kelly Living's Good letter in response to the letter the city submitted. I have 2 points I'll be addressing. First is the 2025 comprehensive plan that council voted on. I was on council then. I remember that vote very well. Every council member asked why the number was given, which seemed out of character for the size of the city and resources. We were told by staff and the city manager at the time that we had no say in it and we had to adopt the number. It was not until later that we learned King County had originally proposed a number of 273 and that staff had requested a higher number without consulting council or having the number as an option. Since 2015, we've approved 297 single-family homes, 103 multifamily homes, 25 apartments. 15 of those are affordable senior housing units. We had builders do a mix of housing types to try to address the lower price points. This is something builders were not going to do at the time. The council, however, saw the value in mixed housing types. Regarding the Tolt Dam siren system, I can confirm that this is not operational at this time. The information contained in your packet on the operation and testing of the sirens is not currently on our website. This was pulled from a website archive because at the time in 2021, it was current information. But since that time, the system has not been fully operational and has never been since the 2020 false alarm. This is further confirmed by the information from SPU's website, which is also included in your packet by Peterson, Russell, Kelly, and Livingsgood. We are currently working with a third party in SPU to assess the alarms and get a working warning system. Carnation has not had a reliable system since 2020. I apologize. Since 2020. And has been inactive since March of 2024, which means we have no sirens currently. Further, the 20-acre evacuation site is misleading. We have a trail system that covers 20 acres that leads them to a half-acre evacuation point. I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you. And our final person who signed up, and then I will get to our Zoom hands, is Jennifer Kim. And I believe that Ms. Kim has some documents that Ivan will share in the chat. So let me just promote you, Jennifer. Okay, you should be able to speak.
I just put the file in the chat. Can somebody give me a thumbs up if it successfully went through on the chat?
It looks like it
Okay.
did, Ivan.
Super. Thank you.
Jennifer, if you're ready to speak, go right ahead.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jennifer Kim, and I am a Sammamish resident. I am asking the GMPC to help our city stay within the growth targets that were allotted to us. So our growth target was originally 750 for 2044, and then it was increased to 2,100 last year without any residents' input. Now the council is doing a supplemental EIS on adding an additional 2,000 units to the town center for a total of 4,000 residential units. Our current infrastructure can't handle this amount of growth. Our population is 67,000, but we don't have direct access to the freeway, light rail service, and our bus service has been reduced. If our city council approves the additional 2,000 units, we won't be able to maintain traffic concurrency because the street where the town center is going to be located can't be widened. And additionally, the city isn't addressing the existing traffic deficiencies of our main arterials that are our only ways on and off the plateau. And this is really problematic if you consider what could happen in an emergency situation like a wildfire. And as a parent of students in our local public schools, I have personally seen how overcrowded our schools are. The February bond to build a new high school was rejected, and the schools are not able to accommodate potentially thousands of additional students from the town center. We are also facing issues with our sewer capacity. Our current system is already stressed, and we were supposed to have a new line built from Lake Sammamish to the Brightwater facility, but now it's delayed until 2037. The additional units will require significantly more sewer capacity, which will be extremely expensive and could result in another building moratorium. So I'm asking on behalf of the residents of Sammamish that the GMPC please help our city council to stay within the growth targets that were given to us by King County. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Heather Murphy-Rains, followed by Debbie Treen. So Heather.
And I just wanted to ask, Ivan, you have your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Yes, if I can, apologies for interrupting. The last speaker was speaking to an issue that the GMPC addressed a couple of years ago. I'll drop the ordinance that was adopted by the King County Council and then ratified I believe that's 19553. That's not at issue today. It's related, of course, to topics because we're talking about growth targets, but that's not one of the factors in the growth target reconciliation process we're dealing with. I just wanted to provide that context before I drop in the chat, the file.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Heather Murphy Rains. I am a 20-year resident of Sammamish. The Sammamish City Council is using a supplemental EIS process to increase the number of units allowable in the town center from 2,000 to 4,000 and the building height up to 15 stories. The existing sub-area plan was part of the updated comprehensive plan that was just submitted in December for your review and approval. Using the supplemental EIS process appears to allow the city to increase its growth target without calling it a modification of the growth target. But if this change is adopted and the city allows 15-story buildings in the town center, we will certainly exceed the 2,100 units that were approved and planned in the updated comprehensive plan. So the city is modifying its growth target in essence without coming to the GMPC for a formal change in the target. And that is a violation of the Growth Management Act. Please require the city submit its requested change to the GMPC for approval if that plan is to be in effect. Furthermore, if the plan is adopted at a later date to double at 4,000 housing units and 15 stories, please require a full and complete EIS because with climate change, an updated EIS is warranted. In 2019, our city emergency plan has submitted to King County a plan annex that detailed a shocking risk of 1.7 times that of Paradise, California for wildfire evacuation with our extremely limited egresses with choke points outside of town boundaries. With Western Cedars dying in our town, drought, and being designated a wildland urban interface town, or WUI, in the King County Wildfire Risk Reduction Strategy, residents need to be assured that emergency evacuation is secured before doubling to such density. I will say 4,000 housing units is out of character for the size and infrastructure for Sammamish. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Debbie Treen. Debbie, you should be able to speak whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Debbie Treen and I live in Sammamish, been here 15 years. I've been involved in land use, development, and local government since 1984. I worked on the Growth Management Act in 1990 and 91, and I supported the Growth Management Act as an environmentalist and citizen activist in Snohomish County and Bothell. I'm really impressed with the Vision 2050 document and the work of the GMPC to plan the region's growth. I'm here today because I'm concerned about what Sammamish is doing with their comprehensive plan. It's my understanding that they've already submitted their amended plan in December of 24, meeting their growth target of 2,100 units. It's either already approved or about to be approved. While you're approving this plan, there's a whole separate process going on. The city is using a supplemental EIS process to amend the town center sub-area plan, which is part of the updated plan you've already reviewed and approved. Excuse me, my notes are bad. The city proposes to modify the sub-area plan to increase the number of units from 2,000 to 4,000 and height limits to 15 stories. They're describing this as increases in capacity, but the actual result is going to be an increase in growth, which would exceed our growth target without adequate planning. The scope of the supplemental EIS in progress was narrowly defined and may not address all of the potential impacts of the additional 2,000 units. The proposed increase in units will result in Sammamish exceeding its target without adequate planning for impacts. The process simply bypasses the GMPC's approved comprehensive plan for 2,100 units and doubles the town center growth without complying with the GMPC policies for changing growth targets. Please require that the city follow the formal reconciliation process to adjust its growth target. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker today is Mayor Catherine Ross from the city of Snoqualmie. Mayor Ross, you should be able to speak. If you unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, whenever you're ready.
Great. Good afternoon, Chair Perry and GMPC Council. My name is Catherine Ross, the Mayor of the City of Snoqualmie, and I'm here today to request support in amending the King County countywide planning policies for the City of Snoqualmie, specifically reducing the 2044 housing growth target from 1,500 to 719 units. But first, I want to thank the GMPC for considering Snoqualmie's request and determining a reconciliation process over the past year since our initial request we submitted in March 2024. Snoqualmie's growth target exceeds its actual capacity. Studies show that nearly 70% of the city's land is developed, is in environmentally constrained, or in floodplains. Additionally, 86% of single-family lots are within the master plan community governed by CCNRs, limiting the ability to add new units like accessory dwelling units. A large portion of the land in the urban growth area has been acquired by the Snoqualmie tribe for preservation, further reducing the city's development potential. Additionally, the purchase of the Salish Lodge and Spa and surrounding parcels resulted in the cancellation of a city-approved project that included up to 150 new homes. Also, there is insufficient water to support 1,500 new homes. King County Utilities Technical Review Committee determined the Snoqualmie's water system plan could not be recommended to King County Council without a revised growth target. So the Snoqualmie City Council, by resolution, reduced the growth target to 719 units. Despite these constraints, Snoqualmie has a strong track record, having already exceeded its 2035 housing goal by 214 units, and continues to support affordable and missing middle housing with tools like the multifamily tax exemption and multi-zoning code updates to meet the new housing laws. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Chair Perry, that is the extent of our public comment today.
Thank you very much. And thanks to everybody who turned out for public comment. Really appreciate your participation. So at this point, we're closing public comment. And the next topic is the growth target reconciliation process and GMPC motion 25-1. You'll recall that the GMPC received requests from 2 cities to reduce their growth targets due to infrastructure and other constraints. The GMPC established criteria to guide the process and directed staff to develop options for our consideration. I believe we're close to a solution that would provide flexibility for these cities while being consistent with our policies and our shared values. Staff will brief GMPC on discussions that have occurred since our December meeting, including work on a proposed motion. So staff can begin when ready. And following, let me just say that following the presentation, if GMPC is ready to act, we'll have a roll call vote on GMPC motion 25-1.
Thank you, Chair Perry. I'll get us started here. We have a short presentation today, and then we will get to the motion. So starting off, just to orient everyone to what we're going to be talking about, we'll start with a brief status update to remind you all, even though Chair Perry's summary was fabulous there, about where we are with reconciliation and where the process stands. After that status update, we will discuss the proposed hybrid option to reconcile growth targets, and then we'll follow that with a presentation of GMPC motion 25-1, which GMPC staff, the interjurisdictional team, has drafted at GMPC's request after the December meeting, and this will be submitted for your consideration and potential action. So I know we have some new members who weren't with us in 2024. So just a bit of background. So you'll see the table of the reconciliation requests on the right of the slide here. And just to ground everybody in this topic, Carnation and Snoqualmie have requested this reconciliation process to reduce their growth targets by the amounts in that table. And over the course of 2024, this is our 1-year anniversary, so talking about this topic, GMPC has spent time at each of the meetings in 2024 discussing the value of reconciliation process, the need for the process, and the merits of the requests before GMPC. At its December meeting, after hearing multiple reconciliation scenarios, the Growth Management Planning Council directed staff to draft a motion for possible action at today's meeting that recommends changes to the housing growth targets and the allocated housing need for Carnation and Snoqualmie and the countywide planning policies. And this includes a hybrid option, which creates an opportunity for another jurisdiction to voluntarily increase their targets by the reconciled amount of growth. And members also noted in previous meetings the importance of maintaining our affordable housing allocation. And so the solution that we've are putting forward that's before GMPC today seeks to preserve almost entirely all of the affordable housing that was allocated to all cities in King County and the original growth targets and housing need. At our December meeting, our GMPC chair also directed staff to further work with the members who had proposed including a hybrid option just to make sure that concept that we bring back to you meets your expectations. And so we did that outreach between the December meeting and today. So the next thing I'm going to do is explain a little bit more about that hybrid option. So you know what we're talking about when we use that phrase. So in the consideration of this option, I just want to affirm that no other jurisdictions step forward to affirmatively increase their growth target and accept that associated housing need. And so without that, there are also, we started thinking about at a staff level, potential incentives, both existing or future, that could offer to compel a willing partner. Frankly, there are a limited number of available or certain incentives like grants or cost sharing that could offset a key barrier of the cost and staff and resources that are required to update a comprehensive plan that the jurisdiction who's taking on additional growth would need to do to be compliant with this. So we are, as staff, explored options about how GMPC staff could support a jurisdiction that way. We also wanted to harness an idea that was shared in an earlier GMPC meeting in 2024. We had some members commenting about, with curiosity about other jurisdictions out there or neighborhoods where there's additional capacity for growth. And so that seemed like a very good step to take to try and understand the situation in between our buildable lands reports about where there's might be additional capacity to accept future growth. So taking all of that into consideration, staff has developed this hybrid option to present to you, and we discussed it with a couple of GMPC members along the way who had proposed it. So what the hybrid option of reconciliation does, and this is just the hybrid part of it, is that GMPC staff, the interjurisdictional team, will work with a jurisdiction that is willing to take on reconciled growth and the associated housing need to update their comprehensive plan over the next couple of years, so in 2025 or 2026. If that request or that increase of growth target is consistent with our countywide regional policies and the GMPC's guiding principles for reconciliation. GMPC staff would support the jurisdiction through technical expertise and assistance with the policy in the countywide regional level, and also partner with that jurisdiction in potential grant opportunities. The second piece of the hybrid option is that GMPC staff will collect growth assumptions and capacity from recently adopted comp plans in 2026 and present that information back to GMPC to inform future conversations about targets, growth, all the good things that GMPC considers. So with that hybrid option, staff pulled together a motion to present to you today. And the motion, which I will cover after this slide really and walk through in more detail, the motion recommends three basic things. First, it amends the housing growth targets and housing need for the cities of Carnation and Snoqualmie in the countywide planning policies in a method that preserves almost 100% of the needs for affordable housing, particularly for households with low incomes. Secondly, it commits the GMPC staff to work with a willing jurisdiction to increase their growth targets as long as that's consistent with adopted policy and GMPC's guiding principles. And staff would support that jurisdiction by doing policy support, by pursuing any additional funding opportunities, or providing any other technical assistance that can be offered. And finally, The motion commits GMPC staff to review comp plans that were recently adopted, to pull out those growth assumptions and capacity, and report back to GMPC in 2026. So that's the bones of what the motion proposes, but I want to make sure, oops, I don't think this is being shared. I want to make sure that everyone is on the same page about what's included in the motion. So I'm going to step through it very quickly as soon as I share it with you on the screen. Get that in the center. Okay. So don't worry, I'm not going to read this word for word. I know we're worried about the weather. So I'll just walk you through the outline of what the recitals say, and then finally what the action is that this motion recommends. So we start in the countywide planning policies, just noting when they were adopted and what that ordinance was. Then the first piece of this motion is really establishing the case and then the need for reconciliation with the vis-a-vis the context that's going on. So the fundamental changes that have happened in the planning framework in King County since the countywide planning policies and targets were adopted in 2021. So we reference the policies from the CPPs that talk about how a reconciliation process was added as a part of that update, as well as the change in the definition for what it means to plan for your growth targets in comprehensive plans. We define what a reconciliation process is. And then we start to note the additional changes that have happened to the growth management planning framework in our state, notably House Bill 1220, which added, among other things, our housing need, or the need to create housing need at a jurisdictional level. Noting that King County, through the GMPC, enacted that housing need by jurisdiction following that bill, making those changes to the countywide planning policies, acknowledging that there were other bills that have been subsequently passed since 1220 was passed and since the targets were adopted that affect how jurisdictions plan for their growth and also created additional capacity by legislation. Then we start getting into the meat of reconciliation. So acknowledging that a year ago, the City of Snoqualmie requested the GMPC consider a reconciliation process. And that the GMPC began discussion of that process in March of 2024, that the GMPC agreed to a set of guiding principles, and those are listed for posterity and clarity in this document. After that, we acknowledge that GMPC directed its staff to search out and see if the scale of need for reconciliation. And as a result of that, another jurisdiction, Carnation, stepped forward. So this clause just acknowledges the requests from those two cities. The Growth Management Planning Council did the hard work of considering those requests, and that the determination was made that significant local and regional statewide changes that were unanticipated happened to our planning framework and within these local communities, and that as a result, we're recommending that the reconciliation process amending the growth targets take place. Also acknowledging that the scale of need for housing within King County and that placing the reduction from reconciliation is in context of that need, and saying that it is not to avoid planning for housing, but it is a change that happens in a way that makes us more consistent with regional policy and consistent with the original growth target setting process. And the last recital here is language provided by SCA that is attempts to box in the precedent setting of this process. So this language is a little reworked from the original language SCA provided, but the intention of that was just to clarify, or just to kind of change the tense of the words to make it fit with the rest of the motion. And these changes were shared with SCA members ahead of time, so I welcome any feedback if there is any. So as I said, that's the last recital, and then we get to the action of the motion recommends. At the risk of repeating myself, the motion recommends 3 actions. 1, changing or amending the CPPs and the targets and the housing need within them. Those changes are in attachment A. Secondly, recommending that analysis of growth targets and capacity in 2026. And finally, the third thing about the hybrid option of leaving the door open for another jurisdiction to approach GMPC to take up that growth that's reconciled out of those 2 cities, so long as it's consistent with the guiding principles and policy, and committing GMPC's staff to work with that jurisdiction to effectuate that change, if so. And with a little description about why. I just want to say one thing about the hybrid option. We put some time boundaries on it, that recommending that over the next 2 years, so this process doesn't lengthen out. In all honesty, we will be setting growth targets for the 2034 planning cycle around 2029, 2030. So if we let this process go longer, it kind of bleeds into some of our other regional planning functions. So we felt it was appropriate to kind of bound this option in time, close to our action potentially today. So that is the content of the motion and where the process is. And Chair Perry, this concludes my presentation at this time. So I'd be ready to take any discussion or action.
Thank you. So you have moved and seconded the motion, and at this, is that correct? The staff has done so?
I don't believe staff has that ability.
Oh, okay. Well, let's at this point, I want to call for discussion, but I need a motion to move and second.
Councilmember Stewart, on behalf of the Sound Cities Association, I move motion 25-1 as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion. Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the staff who have done the incredible work in the off season to really make sure that we are putting the final touches on what is threading a very fine needle for a very specific need, and all of the work that has gone on in the process over the past year. The Sound Cities Association caucus met earlier today and is enthusiastic about the action being taken today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Balducci.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to also say this has been a long time under consideration, a lot of good discussion, a lot of good work by staff. We've deliberated it here multiple times. I appreciate the engagement from the cities of Carnation and Snoqualmie. They've both taken a lot of effort to make sure we understand what's happening and the rationale. And I just want to state, I've said this before, but I just want to state for the record, there's a lot of reasons that have been given in testimony and in various places. I personally feel that the most compelling reasons behind this are the fact that at least for some of this, the growth targets were initially set in what you could describe accurately to be error. And so like we don't just sort of keep going to do something that looks like it was wrong from the get-go. And this is closer to right. There are some things that were unanticipated changes that I think would affect the growth targets. But there are also things that are absolutely anticipated. And I just want to say for the record, if more growth means we have to provide more infrastructure and we're concerned about how to do that, that is anticipated. We're all going through that. And so that's not the rationale why I'm supporting this. I do support it, but I support it because of the errors and the unanticipated things that happened, and I think both cases are fair. And it's been very clear that we're not really changing the affordability equation for housing by making this action. That's very important to me as well, and I appreciate that. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilmember Balducci. Any other comments or discussion? Ivan.
One of our new GMPC members saw a typo in the document and shared that with me. Rebecca, can you pull the motion back up? We'd like to fix this error before GMPC acts on it.
Sure.
So if you would pull up the motion and go to line 65.
Yeah, let me grab sorry, I had the Adobe one, so I need to pull up in a Word version.
Or I can share my screen.
If you've got it, then go right ahead.
Okay. Try and do that. See if I can share the right file. Okay. Here on line 65, there's a period where there should be a comma.
We're not seeing your screen.
Oh,
There we
okay.
go.
Are you seeing it?
Yes,
You're seeing this screen where my mouse is?
correct.
Okay. See on line 65 after the word whereas, there's a
Oh.
period and there should be a comma. So let me see if I can stop sharing. We would
I need to know who was the eagle-eye person who spotted that.
name check themselves if they want to. But it's one of our great new members destined for greatness. Councilmember Baldwin, thank you so much. So, Chair Perry, I just believe the maker of the motion would accept it, could accept that as a friendly amendment to correct that, and we could move forward.
Okay, does the maker of the motion accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes, I do.
Great. And we had a second to this, did we?
Yes, we
I
did.
accept it.
Okay, very good. Seeing no other discussion at hand, Rebecca, would you please call the vote? Roll call.
I'll actually do that.
Ivan, would you please call
Yeah.
roll call?
We're watching you tally, Ivan, just so you're aware.
Oh, let's stop that share. Thank you. Thank you very much. I've got so many windows open. Who knows what you might have seen. Okay, but great. And I notice we've been joined by Councilmember Mick Irvin. Councilmember Balducci.
Aye.
Councilmember Dembowski. Councilmember Mosqueda. Councilmember Perry.
Aye.
Mayor Harrell. Councilmember Solomon.
Aye.
Councilmember Strauss. Councilmember Rivera. Councilmember Neuenhouse.
Aye.
Mayor Curtis.
Aye.
Councilmember McIrvin.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaur.
Aye.
See, Mayor Neese is not here, and Councilmember McHenry is a voting member.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Treen.
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart.
Aye.
Councilmember Asefa Dawson. Councilmember Baldwin. Sorry, non-voting member as an alternate. So my apologies for calling on you. Right.
I would support if it were necessary. Thanks.
Chair Perry, we have 10 ayes and no noes. So we have a quorum and the motion passes.
Wonderful. This passes. Thank you all very much. Really excited. Congratulations to the cities of Carnation and Snoqualmie. And our next item is the 2025 GMPC work program. Staff will now introduce the proposed GMPC 2025 work program, which was discussed at the December meeting and is scheduled for action today. There have been a few small changes to the work program that we will discuss today. And again, if GMPC is ready to act, we will have a roll call vote. Ivan, go right ahead whenever you're ready.
Great. Thank you, Chair Perry. Just one update. We received a letter during public comment, and our fantastic IT staff already have that up on the GMPC's website. So viewing members of this meeting in the public can see that as well. So thank you, Nanette Lowe, for getting that up for us. I'll share my screen. All right. Can you see that screen? I'm doing a very quick overview. We do this once every 2 years. We've got a number of new members, and I will make it brief, but just an overview of the GMPC, and then on to the 2025 work program. All right, we'll cover what are the CPPs, kind of our primary focus here, countywide planning policies, what is the Growth Management Planning Council, and what is in the 2025 GMPC work program. So most of this will be 101 for folks on the meeting, so I'll be brief. This is just our growth management framework that we all work on, and right there in the middle is the countywide planning policies, kind of the bread and butter of this body, and actually the reason the body was formed. What are the CPPs? They're a shared framework for planning for all jurisdictions in King County. Sometimes the policies are aspirational and sometimes the policies are binding. So they have substantive effect. The CPPs implement the State Growth Management Act and the multi-county planning policies in Vision 2050. Comprehensive plans are developed within the CPP framework. There have been CPPs in King County since the mid-1990s, and our last major update was in 2021. The update in 2021, the major update, was updated to align with Vision 2050 multi-county planning policies and PSRC's regional centers framework. A number of changes in the Growth Management Act, like the Missing Middle Bill and the Affordable Housing Bill, and the Affordable Housing Committee Action Plan, which led to the formation of GMPC's Affordable Housing Committee. And as you can see, since 2021, including today, we have, or GMPC, and then all the cities in the county have amended the CPPs on a regular basis. As was mentioned, 4-to-1 program, UGA policies, UGA changes, growth target changes, countywide center planning changes, and more. So it's an active body of work, a living document, if you will. As mentioned, Growth Management Act established the requirement for countywide planning policies, and the GMPC was formed by interlocal agreement in 1992, and it's been in continual operation since that time. So it's a body that seems to really work in King County for our countywide collaboration. You can see our voting members: King County, Seattle, Bellevue, Sound City. We call those the 4 caucuses of GMPC. And then recognize their important role. Schools and special purpose districts join us as non-voting seats. We have a seat for the port, but that's been vacant for some time. You are supported by an interjurisdictional staff team that represents those same 4 caucuses. And in 2019, GMPC formed its Affordable Housing Committee, which has its own housing interjurisdictional staff team and some excellent staff that you see here on a regular basis. This is our schedule in 2025. 1 meeting down, 3 to go. What work does the GMPC oversee? Countywide planning policies. As part of that, population and housing growth targets, urban growth area boundary changes, the designation of centers. We'll be working on some of that this year. The urban growth capacity report, which is connected to the target process, and other countywide topics such as annexation, school siting and coordination, and other issues. So what's the work program today? I'll end here and then turn to the staff report. You'll hear regularly from the Affordable Housing Committee, not today, in the interest of time and getting folks back in their community given the weather. You've got their staff report and there won't be a briefing today, but that's a regular feature. Their 5-year charter is ending, so there'll be some new envisioning of what that group will do. Center designations, those are primarily countywide centers, but could be also regional centers that then move to the regional process at PSRC. Wrapping up growth target reconciliation today, climate change planning, which I'll talk about in a moment, tribal coordination, and again, other countywide topics such as annexation, schools, and others. So let me now attempt to see. Can you see the staff report? Okay, great. I'll make it a little bigger, and I'll again go quick. And Chair Perry, this could be approved by voice vote if members would like to do that, or it could be a roll call vote. That's up to the body. I think I've mentioned everything on this page: affordable housing, rural targets. I'll just say briefly on some of these other topics. Back in 2020 and 21, we designated candidate countywide centers. Those will now come forward this year after the comprehensive plan are done for a more permanent status. So once this meeting is done this week, we'll be reaching out to all the jurisdictions, and we've already been in contact with many of them and been at planning directors to let this know it's coming their way. And of course, we're coordinating with PSRC if any would move to then regional designation. We started tribal coordination work a year ago, and then our tribal liaison left the county. We have a new tribal liaison that we're working with, and there was a bill, House Bill 1717, which requires us to invite tribes to participate in our countywide planning process. They engage with us in a lot of different ways, both on local and countywide planning, but we'll bring some of that conversation here to you as we're working with the tribes. And there may be amendments to the countywide planning policies. I'll just say in other counties such as Pierce, they have a very robust set of policies related to tribal coordination that we might want to use some of those concepts. But that's a conversation that we'll have later this year with you. And then greenhouse gas emissions. Just briefly, county's updating its strategic climate action plan. One of the items, and that's really focuses on county work, but one of the items there is countywide, and it's looking at the countywide planning policy we have, which sets greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. But those are countywide numbers, much like our affordable housing targets were countywide numbers before we did the work under House Bill 1220 to sub-allocate that to individual jurisdictions as housing need numbers, and that's all in the CPP. So we want to see if that process would make sense for the greenhouse gas reduction emission targets. And I'll just say part of the rationale for that is in our region, we have to do implementation progress reports, and for some jurisdictions still have to do climate elements, resiliency elements in their comprehensive plan in 2029. So there's a comp plan update ahead of us, and we think linking this CPP to that work based on all of the extensive analysis that's been done already countywide, could really help jurisdictions refine and focus in on what are the most important tools and strategies in your jurisdiction to address greenhouse gases. That's a complex body of work. It requires new staffing, so that's going to potentially be part of the budget that goes over the county council to have staffing to do some of this work. So it's going to roll out in front of you over the coming year. There are many steps in the process, but that's what all of that means. And then last, I'll make this a little smaller so you can see it as a whole. This is just what the schedule looks like over the coming year. I hope folks can see it. We're through this. We'll have a legislative session wrap up, maybe more on Affordable Housing Committee. We have to do member updates for them. But I think that kind of the bulk of the work will move from the staff level at the beginning of the year to you as we get to later in the year, as shown. Chair Perry, I'm done with my presentation, so I can take my screen down and turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for your presentation. I appreciate it. Do we have, first I need a motion and a second. And then we can have discussion to move this.
So moved. Councilmember Stewart.
Second, Councilmember Newhouse.
Thank you very much. Discussion. Don't all talk at once. I can't hear you. Okay. Councilmember Stewart.
Chair Perry, we have some shy colleagues today, but I'll go ahead and hop in with some feedback from a member of the SCA caucus, a couple of members of the SCA caucus earlier today. When we do get that rescheduled legislative update back, and as those comes forward, there was a request from the caucus today to also include any federal legislative or federal action updates, as it were, particularly as it applies to the ability of the CPPs to perform in the way that we expected. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Ivan, go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. Councilmember Balducci.
Aye.
Councilmember Dembowski.
Aye.
Oh, great. Thank you. Councilmember Mosqueda. Councilmember Perry.
Aye.
Mayor Harrell. Councilmember Solomon.
Aye.
Councilmember Strauss. Councilmember Rivera. Councilmember Neuenhouse.
Aye.
Mayor Curtis.
Aye.
Councilmember McIrvin.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaur.
Aye.
Councilmember Treen.
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart.
Aye.
And Councilmember McHenry.
Aye.
Chair Perry, we have 11 ayes and no noes, and we have a quorum. So the work plan is adopted. The work program.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We've adopted this work plan, and if there is no other business to come before GMPC, we are adjourned. Get home safely and dry. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.